There's Just Something About Kansas City is brought to you by the generosity of our friends with the Haverty family, the Illig family, the Kearney Warnell Foundation, UMB Bank trustee, the Sherman family, the Cockrell family, Kansas City Orthopedic Institute, Don and Mary Doherty, and the Bergman family. Thank you.
Welcome once again to another edition of There's Just Something About Kansas City. Don't forget, you can get us anywhere you get your podcast, on Spotify and anywhere else. We are on YouTube, and on Sunday mornings at 11:30, we are on KC PBS. That started on September 7th, and we are so proud to be on KC's PBS as well. It's just been a wonderful gift for us, and we thank them very much for putting our podcast on. They're going to have to get this guy on. Okay, Donnie Campbell. They're going to have to use this episode down there, the one and only. And for anybody that is going, well, who's Donnie Campbell? Well, anybody in Kansas City knows Donnie Campbell because of his great reputation as a high school basketball coach here at both, Shawnee Mission West with Jason Sudeikis, which we'll talk about, and also Lee Summit North and Blue Valley West, where he won a state championship. But we're just happy to have you. We know everybody, I think, talks to you about the old the Jason Sudeikis and Ted Lasso connection and the whole thing, which we will talk about. But I want to talk about you a little bit from tiny Lyons, Kansas, and it has exploded since 2020 when Jason mentioned that you were the guy he was thinking about when he created Ted Lasso. So, hi, number one, how you doing?
I'm just so first, I'm honored to be here and humbled.
Well, we're honored and humbled to have you.
Oh, wow, thanks. It's just really surreal. You plant seeds and you hope that they grow. And with Jason, I'm just really proud of him. I'm proud of the show, of course, that you made an influence on somebody. But, Jason has not forgot his roots either. He still does a lot of philanthropy work here in Kansas City, with the Big Slick. But it's very surreal for me. I mean, yeah. I pinch myself. I do a lot of speaking now. When I step out on stage, I was in front of 1,000 people just 2 weeks ago, and I'm just very blessed, very humbled, and very honored to be doing all I get to do.
Yeah, that's right. And that's one of the ways that it exploded for you in life was the fact that, you decided, maybe I have a message to tell. I sent a message to every one of my kids I coached and their parents. I let them know exactly what I expected. I want them to play this way and do the whole thing. And you have morphed that into what you do now. Basically, I know you're still teaching, but this is also your speaking engagements and your motivational speaking and your MVP, which we will talk about. It has really dominated your life now, hasn't it?
I have 50 speaking engagements this year.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm teaching full time. And then last year I did 26. And Kelly Bjornseth, my speaking manager, has not really marketed me that much. She's scared I'd lose my teaching job if she did. But I'm just, what's really cool is my wife and I prayed about, I wanted to be a head coach again, and it just never came to fruition because I've been out of being a head coach since I retired at Blue Valley West in 2007. And it just never, and sometimes when you pray, you one door closes, another one opens, and I'm coaching now when I go out and speak. It's just a different platform. I never really felt like I coached basketball. I always felt like I taught attitude. And that's what I'm doing now. The biggest thing is, as you well know, it's all about relationships, and that's connections with kids. I miss the smell of a gym, though. I miss being with my kids and seeing kids improve. There's just it's nothing like it,
Yeah, right.
Seeing kids improve. I miss that, but it's just a different platform for me now, going out and speaking.
Yeah, that's right. Instead of having 12 or 15 kids, not really listening to you a whole lot, to having a rapt audience of 1,000 just sitting there hanging on every word. It's
right.
a little bit different.
It is.
It?
It's and at times it's a little scary. It's like when you go out to speak, it's like getting ready to coach a state championship game. You got that nervous energy, and then once you get out there and you get doing your thing, it's a blast. And I just have fun, and I connect with people, and I think they see that I'm a very authentic person, and I think people like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a lesson one time way back in the day when I coached for like 5 years. I coached college football for 5 years before I decided to do this. But when I got into doing this, Bill Burns, who's one of the original anchormen ever in the United States, he was at KDK TV in Pittsburgh when they first went on the air. And he told me, when you're in this business, if you're going to do it, he said, the day you stop getting nervous and your palms stop sweating is the day you get out.
Right.
He said, because now it doesn't mean anything to you.
Right.
So there's your lesson for today.
You betcha.
Okay, yeah, and I'm sure you, like you said, there's 1,000 people sitting out there waiting to hear what I have to say. Will they care about what I have to say? Yeah.
I my 45-minute keynote, I spend at least 6 to 8 hours preparing for them, and because I'm selling myself, but I'm also selling something. You're coaching, you're teaching. When you coach and teach, you're selling. And if you don't have anything to, you have to have something to sell, right? And
absolutely.
So I just I love it. I love connecting with people. I love inspiring people. I love making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
They're not going to remember. It's like in the classroom. My kids in the math classroom aren't going to remember me how I taught them how to factor a quadratic equation, but they are going to remember.
Don't talk to me about math, okay? It brings back terrible memories of calculus at Villanova. I just going, oh my God, what am I doing this math? I'm not a math major. What am I doing with this math?
Well, but you understand too. You don't really remember the teachers what they taught you, but you remember how they made you feel, and I think that's what I focus on. And I've always tried to. Have I been perfect? I was a very demanding basketball coach, but I was never a demeaning basketball coach.
Right, and there's a big difference.
And there is a huge difference.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I remember one time I was coaching a game at Blue Valley West, and a couple of my players who were really good players, we had a timeout, and I called a timeout and specifically talked about how we were going to defend this out-of-bounds play. Well, these two kids didn't do what I said, and I got on them pretty good after the game. And I felt terrible when I drove home, and I got home because they were great kids. They just made a mistake, as we all do, right? Doers make mistakes. So I called them up and texted them and took them both out to eat and apologized for what I said. And I said, I need to do a better job of coaching, and I need to do a better job of connecting. And that before I got done, they both looked at me and says, no, coach, it was our fault. And when you have those kind of players that hold themselves accountable, those are powerful teams. And that's what I think, what's fun for me to watch the Chiefs is they hold each other accountable. And I think that's why they have such a winning team, myself.
Yeah. You worry about them yelling at each other on the sideline, however, okay? Donnie, okay, we won't get into the weeds here since this is an evergreen situation.
Right.
They'll be watching this 10 years from now, Your daughters will be watching this 10 years from now. And it's one of those. But all this started for you back in tiny Lyons, Kansas, born and raised in Lyons. Your mom and dad, your dad was a World War II vet.
Yeah.
I think I heard a story. Was he the first American to walk in Hiroshima?
No, he wasn't the first one, but his group that he was with, they were in, I think, the Sea of Japan, and he never really talked a lot about it.
Yeah, right.
But they were getting ready to land, which Dad said if they would have, you probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah, exactly.
And but they, of course, the atomic bomb hit, and they went in and policed the area the next day. And he did have some stories about that. And
did he have any residual?
Well, we don't know.
Problems?
He lived to be almost 90.
Okay,
but he died of cancer, and it's an interesting story. My dad had some challenges in life, but my mom died in April, and she had dementia. My dad took care of her. And then 3 weeks later, Dad died of lung cancer. So we don't know. He smoked till he was 50, so we'll never know. But the way my mom kind of handled things growing up, and I won't go into specifics, all right? But then it went full circle when she got dementia. And the legacy my dad left, the way he took care of her when she was bad, and my kids just love that, And there was this is kind of a story. Is the night of my dad's wake, the dad died on a Saturday night, real early, and that during the day at the hospice, I was there were some elderly people there around a woman her husband was there as well. And I'd talk to anybody. I went in there and started talking to him. Well, when my dad died that night, about 4 or 5 days later, this gal came up to me at my dad's wake who I talked to. Her husband had passed, and said, "Do you remember me, Donnie?" I said, "Well, kind of." And then she said, "I want to tell you a story about your parents." And I said, "What's that?" She goes, "Well, my mom and dad at our church there, Lutheran Church in Lyons, Kansas, Grace Lutheran, my dad would always mow the yard, and my mom would clean up the garden or the flowers and everything and edge and everything." And she goes, "I watched him do that for 30 years. And when your mom had dementia, my dad would still bring her out and let her work on the flowers as he was mowing." Wow. And to see that, and that's the kind of parents I had growing up. Right. And you know what I'm talking, in a small town.
You bet. Yeah. And everybody knew everybody. Everybody was raising everybody.
Exactly.
And you had an older brother and sister.
Right.
Correct? Yeah. And, as you said, your brother Doug was one of your heroes, right?
Well, he's 10 years older than me.
Right.
My sister's 14 years older than me.
Gosh,
my brother, I was the mistake.
So was I.
I got
in your crowd, pal.
We got reminded a lot, didn't we?
Exactly. Oh, all the time.
But when you're in a small town and hardly anybody plays Division I basketball, my brother was playing at Arkansas. Of course, he was my idol. I wanted to be a basketball player just like him.
Because he's 10 years older than you, so he's there right through formative time for you.
You betcha. So when a funny story about him, we're playing Shawnee Mission East one night, and it was the first game you'd ever watched me coach when I was at Shawnee Mission West. And we were the 1 seed and got beat by East, who were the 8 seed. We didn't play very well. We ended up losing. Well, after the game, I said, "Well, Doug, wait for me. I'll talk to you after the game." He says, "No, I'm going to the boat. I don't want to be around a loser. I don't want to lose her." But that's the kind of relation. You know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, yeah.
But he was my idol, and when he passed, I couldn't speak at his funeral. I really wish now I would have. But my sister just passed about a year ago. In fact, it'd be a year and a week. Mm-hmm. She was 74. Her and her husband lived in Reno, Nevada, and she died of cancer. So
you said she was pretty tough.
Oh, she's a lot tougher than us.
Yeah, I heard she was a pretty tough girl. Huh?
She wouldn't. She's about 5'6", 5'5", but
one of these.
Yeah, exactly. So, but she was like my mother and dad, very kind people, and as my brother is. But I think of my family. I'm sure you do. Of anybody that you were close to that have passed, I think of them every day.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, so growing up in Lyons, and you went to Lyons High School, the Lyons Lions. Yeah. You were a football, basketball, and baseball player. On track, okay? Mm-hmm. Football, basketball, and track.
Right.
You probably played baseball too, I'm sure. But you were a 3-sport athlete there. And which people are going to think, well, of course, look how tall he is. He played basketball. No. Donnie played quarterback in college at Kansas State. So you're playing these sports. You're all state in all of them. And everybody's thinking you're probably going to play basketball. Why football instead of basketball?
That's an awesome question. I think because I was a better basketball player than football player. I mean, I could throw the ball a country mile, and I could run, but I thought I had a better chance maybe playing in Division I football because of my size. And there's a lot of they're not very 6'5", 6'6" quarterbacks.
No, there aren't.
There's a lot of 6'5", 6'6" football players. And I was getting highly recruited going to my senior year in football. I didn't have a great senior year, so my limitations on Division I was not great. But Kansas State threw the ball a bunch. And I like K-State. I like the people there. So I went there, and it really didn't work out that well for me because they went from a throwing situation to a running. Mm-hmm. And if it's now, I probably would have transferred. But I loved it there, and I stayed there. I did get a tryout with Houston Oilers.
Yeah, right. Did you, before you went to K-State, did you have other offers?
Yes.
To play football?
Yes.
Other places?
Yes.
Like?
Oh, I think it got down to KU, of course.
Okay.
And I probably would have played behind Frank Sire.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. And at K-State, you ended up playing behind.
But it's interesting. I had a lot of schools, but when it got time to tell me there was scholarships, because I didn't have a great senior year,
right.
There probably was only K-State, KU. Missouri was in the mix. Oklahoma State, all the Big 8 schools were in the mix. But it was a case of it was a tough situation for me because I didn't play a lot. I started one game against Missouri, lost 38-0. I think they're still picking up pieces of me at Furrow Field. But, it was such a great – so many lessons I learned that have helped me in coaching and helped me in my life. I would never take those days back at Kansas State. The best people in the world, some of my best friends are from there. I had terrific coaches, terrific mentors. But as far as a career, I think this is the mistake I made was you should always do what your heart tells you to do. My heart was basketball. My mind was football. And if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have played basketball.
And where did you hear from a lot of people?
I did. It wasn't Division I. It was more Division II, junior college, that type of situation. And the junior colleges wanted me to do 3 sports. They wanted me to play football. Say they was trying to lure me there. I wanted to probably go to Hutch like my brother did. My brother played at JUCO before he went to Arkansas. And I was a point guard in high school. And so I could see the floor pretty well and do some things. But, I just think that when you make a decision,
go full throttle.
You bet. And lesson learned. And but I love my time at Kansas State. I got a short tryout with the Houston Oilers. Warren Moon was there, and
you played behind some of these guys. You played behind Delroy Dickey, right?
Yes,
and you played behind Stan Weber. So you had some pretty good. And all of a sudden, you go to the Oilers, and there's Warren Moon standing there, and you're going, "This just isn't working out here." Right?
Well, it was a year 2. They only kept 2 quarterbacks, so I went in. There was 4 of us, and I was better than the third guy. And to be honest with you, as far as throwing the football, I was better than the second guy, who was Oliver Luck.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but Warren Moon's amazing. I've watched. My son-in-law works with Patrick Mahomes, and I've watched. Now I've met Patrick once, but and my son-in-law didn't really talk a lot about Patrick, but.
Non-disclosure.
There you go. He's really pretty tight-lipped.
Your son probably knows where the football stadium's going too, by the way.
Exactly. But I watched him. It was at Blue Valley Northwest. He was working with some athletes, and Patrick was out there with some other quarterbacks they were working with, and it was windy. And I was watching those other guys throwing the ball look like ducks. You know what I'm talking? And when Patrick throws the ball, it reminded me of Warren Moon. Has such great rotation. And
no wind.
It didn't matter. It just
wind.
And I could tell right then this guy's kind of special.
Yeah, right. He ended up being really special. So you go to K-State. Where'd you meet your wife? Where'd you meet Janice?
I was teaching my first year at Blue Valley North. I was an assistant coach, and I was teaching math. And one of my math students, it was a geometry class, was a model for my wife. My wife's in the fragrance business, and she says, "I know this gal that talks and acts kind of just like you."
And you're going, that ain't good.
That's exactly what I said, Frank. That's exactly what I said. So they set us up, and we went out on a blind date, and she hated me after the first date. And in fact, I was playing in a touch football game, and that first date I took her out, I turned my ankle playing touch football. And when I picked her up, I was about 45 minutes late because I couldn't find her apartment.
Oh, yeah.
And when I walked in, I'm limping in. I really impressed her. But she did give me a second chance, and the rest is history. We've been married 35 years. So
that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great.
That's probably my biggest accomplishment is being married to my best friend.
And did she work outside the home?
She did. She was in the fragrance business for 40 years.
Okay.
And
so she continued on.
And she's very, very, very good at very good in sales.
Well, she smells damn good then, I'm pretty sure, right? All the time.
The funny story, the first time she came to my apartment, she went in my restroom, and I had fragrance stuff that other girls I dated were in the things, and she just took them all out and just dumped them into the trash, and said, "You're going to wear my stuff from now on." Oh, that's a true story.
That is classic. That is great. I'm going there. I'm cleaning out all the shelves. Oh God, that is great. And you have 3 girls, right? You have 3 girls. One is married to a professional baseball player. Is that
my youngest? Sydney is married to Carson Seymour, who won his first game against the Cardinals Friday night.
Oh, that's awesome!
And pitches
that is so
starting,
great.
and he is we love all our son-in-laws.
Yeah.
We just they're
I won't tell anybody he's the special son-in-law. Then okay, we'll just leave that one alone.
well, he's they're all unique, of course. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
But they treat our daughters with kid gloves.
That's all that counts.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And but he's a very focused guy. The other night he won his first game, and after the game, his childhood idol is Justin Verlander, who's there. Mm-hmm. So what they do when you win your first game, they put you in a golf cart in the clubhouse, and they pour different beverages and throw lettuce on you and salad dressing and mustard and everything. And I called him the next day and just told him, "Oh, how you feel?" He goes, "Donnie, it was awesome. It was awesome." I said, and I always tell him this. I always try to tell him this. I said, Carson, we love you for who you are, not what you do.
Yeah.
And he's a really special kid, as all our son-in-laws are.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back then to the full circle treatment. So you're this great. You think you're going to play basketball, decide to go play football. So you go and play football. Next thing you know, you're coaching basketball instead of coaching football.
Right.
Why did you decide to coach basketball instead of football? I keep thinking it's math again,
Right.
5 versus 11 type deal. For me, that would have been an easy pick. So
I think with football, you have a lot more variables. You got a lot more coaches, a lot more equipment. I love basketball more. I love the X's and O part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate enough when I got a job as an assistant coach at Blue Valley North under a great high school basketball coach, Dale Graham, and a better person. And he was a math teacher as well. But I love coaching basketball. I love being a part of putting things together to help our kids prepare. I love preparation, getting ready to play teams, and I love practice. I miss the games, but I miss the practice. I miss seeing kids improve. I miss drawing little things up to say, okay, what could we do different here? I miss that. Mm-hmm. I do. I really do.
Well, that's the teacher in you as well.
You betcha. You betcha.
So after the assistant at, where were you, Blue Valley North?
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, and then did you get the head coach job right after that?
I did. I took a job at Gardner Edgerton High School, which at that time
it was pretty new, right?
It was the old school.
The old Gardner, okay, yeah.
And I don't think they'd won 3 or 4 games in 3 years, so it was probably the worst job in Kansas City. In fact, the job was open late in the summer. And when I went and interviewed for it, it was Tom Trigg, who used to be the superintendent at Blue Valley, of course, and I coached his son at Blue Valley West. So when I got done interviewing for it, I think they were going to offer, because I think I'm the only person interviewed for the job.
I'm the only guy here.
Exactly.
It's August. When are they going to think about doing this?
So I went to Coach Graham, and I said, Coach, it's just not a very good job. And he said to me, he goes, Donnie, you're an assistant coach. You've never been a head coach. You're not going to get a good job. You got to take a bad job and turn it into a good job. So I went in for 3 years, and we made improvement. And but I liked the interview. I interviewed for a job at Shawnee Mission West, and I love Shawnee Mission West. I just absolutely love the coaches there. I love the people there. My players, I love the players that were there. That was one of my favorite times of my life. Mm-hmm. I was a young coach. I was the guy that all the head coaches gave the most trouble to, right? But I had just great kids, great support staff. It was really a fun time. I was there 9 years, and then from there I went to opened up Blue Valley West in 2001. Yeah. And then I was there 16 years.
Right, my son Grant went over there. I think he went with Scott Wright. When Scott Wright went over, he was at Blue Valley with Rampy. Mm-hmm. And then Grant decided, I'm going to go with Coach Wright. Mm-hmm. And he went over to Coach Wright and played his last year there under Coach Wright. So
we had some really good coaches there. We had Scott, of course, Coach mm-hmm. Wright that was in football. We had Bill McDonald that was baseball. We had me coaching basketball and Randy Lowe coaching wrestling. I mean, we just had a great staff there, and we all got along. We all believed in multi-sport athletes. We worked together, and same way at Shawnee Mission West. I mean, I had kids that would play just multiple sports, and I love that. I miss that. Yeah,
right. And you won the 6A championship in 2007. 6A? Yeah, it was a 6A championship in 2007. You are a member of the Greater Kansas City High School Basketball Hall of Fame, mm-hmm. which congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Your career's been, has spanned that period of time. Like you said, you miss it, and you're now out on the speaking circuit. Before we get there, let's talk about Jason, a little bit, Jason Sudeikis, and the turning point in your life for all practical purposes. When you coached him, I know you knew his mom and dad. You know, Dan and Kathy are just wonderful people. We knew them as well. I knew Dan was just, I'm sorry, Jason was just a little kid. And what was he like when you look back on? At the time, he's sort of just another kid who has a famous uncle. Okay, but that's basically who he was at that point, right? He wasn't Jason Sudeikis.
Right.
You know?
He's exactly coaching him exactly how he is on TV. However, when he got between the lines, he was a terrific competitor and a terrific teammate. You know, I was over at Shawnee Mission West this summer. I got interviewed through KSHB, and I looked at the record book. Their new coach showed me the record book. Sudeikis is still
in there,
the assist leader at Shawnee Mission West.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And one of the stories I remember with Jason, we're playing in the Lee Summit tournament, and we're playing a game, and Jason is wide open underneath the basket. You know, one of his teammates gave him a perfect pass. Instead of shooting the layup, he kept passing it back out to his teammates. And I said, Sudeikis, shoot the layup, shoot the bunny shot. And he'd look at me with that little look with him. He never did. And then come to find out after the game, I found out that he was close to the assist record for the tournament. He was trying to break it.
Oh, that is classic.
And you're just like his teammates. And I can promise you, I was not laughing that way.
Oh, God, that's great. You're wondering why he's doing it. You find out that is classic.
Oh.
Yeah, and, well, it's a good thing he was a leader in something, because I understand he didn't play defense very well, okay?
No. We had an agreement. You either play defense or you're going to sit by me. And he would play the best. He wasn't real athletic, but he had good instincts. Shot the ball well enough they had to guard him. But that group of guys had been playing with each other in GABL. They had a little GABL like they still do since they were probably third and fourth graders, you know, and they played well. They knew each other. I think kids back then might not be as athletic as the kids now, but I think they really understood.
They were teammates.
Yes, and they understood the game. They had a better basketball IQ. And Jason understood the game. And more importantly, he knew what he couldn't do. And I think I see so many players now.
Yeah, he couldn't shoot layups. It was part of his problem, okay?
Oh, I tell you. No, I did not laugh on that one. I do now, but I didn't.
Right. Yeah, you said he was so bad on defense, you took the D out of his name.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I named him Jason Sudeikis.
That is just classic. But you had some great mentors as you were coming up through basketball. You talked about Bobby Knight. There's a lot of people have that very negative connotation of Bobby Knight because of the end, of how it all ended and everything that happened with him. Some of the things he said, throwing chairs across courts, etc.
Right.
But as far as a human being to you, there was no one better for you, right?
He, I don't know why he liked me. He just did. I remember I was a brand new coach at Gardner Edgerton, and I drove up. Coach had a coaching clinic that always in October, and he would open up 3 or 4 days. It was 3 days that he would start his practices with, and he would do 6 practices and show everything that they would do. And there would be, 1,000 coaches there, and probably more at Assembly Hall. And I went there and watched as a young head coach, and I watched how he taught the game, and I left there saying, this is how I want our kids to play, because it was all about developing kids as players, teaching kids how to play, not to run plays. And that's what we always focused on. And he was speaking at a clinic here about 10 years ago, I think, at Avila College, an Nike clinic. And I called him up and said, hey, Coach, I hear you're flying in. Would love to pick you up at the airport, you and Karen, drive you to the hotel, pick you up the next day. And, oh, great, that'd be great. So I did. And he got done speaking at Avalon. He was phenomenal. If you've ever listened, he's a phenomenal clinician. And he got done. I said, Coach, we got to leave. We got to leave. I said, if we run any traffic, we're not going to make it. He said, okay. So I hurried up and got him and Karen in the truck, and we're driving down the road. Sure enough, we run into construction on 435. And And he says, Donnie, just go around him. I said, Coach, I can't go around him, get a ticket. Just go off on the side, go around him. So I do, right? People, give me.
They're honking, trying to pull into your lane.
Gestures and everything else.
That's
So
right.
we come to a viaduct, and I can't go, there's not enough room. He said, just go in between them. I said, Coach, I can't. I said,
Number two, they're not going to let me.
Right. And he goes, just do it. I said, Coach, I'm not doing it. And he goes, Donnie, you're a really nice guy, but you're a
Yeah, right.
And so when I would text him I was a CS driver from Kansas City, and he loved that.
Oh, yeah.
He loved that. But
yeah.
anything I'd ask him for, he'd help me with. And then I got to be good friends with one of his assistants down at Texas Tech, Les Fertig, who's helped me a lot too. But he taught me how to teach the game.
Yeah.
Another one of my mentors is Don Meyer. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Don Meyer. He's probably the greatest coach that no one's heard of. He taught me much of John Wooden's leadership techniques, which is many of the stuff that I used
the pyramid
with my
of success.
the pyramid of
Yeah.
success, how to develop your players to be better people first, better basketball players second. And that's what I tried to focus on with developing our players, how to be a good teammate, how to be a leader, how to take responsibility for their actions. And those are the things that we tried to focus on. And in the long run, you'll improve as a team when you develop those leadership skills.
Yeah, right. And you also from Bill Self. You say you've gotten a lot of
you
love
betcha.
help from Bill Self.
Coach Self has been very good to me. He was recruiting Matt Friege, who played for me at Shawnee Mission West, who ended up being the all-time leading scorer at Vanderbilt and first-round draft choice. And we developed a relationship when he was coaching, when he was recruiting Matt Friege. And then I got to know Coach Williams quite a bit when he was at KU.
Yeah.
He helped me a lot too. So I'm very, very fortunate to be, when I first started coaching, to have a lot of great mentors that did things the right way, and it was always focusing on the player. I think the mistake that coaches make is they think that their play or their defense wins games. Players win games.
You bet.
And then put them where they can be successful. And that's what I love the saying of Nick. I like Nick Saban. A lot of people don't like Nick. I love Nick Saban. He says, get the right people on the bus, get them in the right seats, and get the wrong people off the bus. Mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people. And that's what we focused on through the years that I coached. And I learned that through mistakes I made, as we all do, right?
Yeah.
But I had great mentors who told me what I needed to hear, maybe not always what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, you bet. And you made a huge impression on Jason, I'm sure. Tell me if this story hits the timeline correctly. So you haven't seen him this is before Ted Lasso. You haven't seen him for a while. And all of a sudden he shows up at a basketball clinic that you were doing, right? And he's there not just to see you, but he's there taking notes. Did you have any idea why he was there? He didn't let you know, did he?
I said, Sudeikis, what the heck are you doing?
What are you going into coaching?
And he just had, and he had a little notepad in a little pocket, and he was over there writing stuff. And I went over there, and I said, what are you doing? And he says, I'm just taking notes. I said, well, okay. And that's about all there was. And we talked. His dad was there with him, and we got invited to SNL.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go, and I kick myself now. My wife and I could have went, but we couldn't because it was during basketball season, and I couldn't take off and miss a game.
No, well, you wouldn't.
No,
coach.
I wouldn't,
no, absolutely not.
But he, you plant a seed. He was not only hearing, because always before practice, I have a little blue book, like John Wooden quote book, and I would use that, like lifetime of quotes and connections, something like that. But I would, whatever it might be, about integrity, about honesty, your pyramid of success.
Sure.
So I'd always pull something out and talk about it. And that's what he remembers. And it goes back to your kids. Kids aren't going to remember how you taught them to do a jump hook. But they're going to remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, right. I guess, and you gave them those quotes, and they had to give them back to you during practice,
Right.
or
they had some extra opportunities at times. And
Mom and Dad sitting out there going, practice supposed to have been over a half hour ago. Where are these guys, right?
But they were not only hearing, but they were listening, and Jason was too.
Yeah. So you don't watch Ted Lasso when it comes out in 2020, right during COVID, when I think it was probably the best thing that could have happened to us, at that period. It was just something we needed, that type of show. Everything was so negative. Everybody was stuck in their house. Nobody could go anywhere. And all of a sudden this show pops up. But you, of course, aren't watching, okay? Don't hear about it. When was the first time you heard about it and that you were the inspiration for the character Ted Lasso?
I'm walking down the hall at my class, and I don't remember what year it was, Frank. I'm just, because everything just kind of goes
I think it was
together.
21.
Yeah, I think it was.
21, yeah.
I'm walking down the hall to my classroom to start my day as I've done. This is my, of course, at that time it was probably, 35 years, but now it's 40. But to start my day as I've done, and a teacher sees me and says, hey, there's the famous basketball coach who inspired Jason Sudeikis' new show, Ted Lasso. And I'm sure I got a dumbfounded. I didn't know anything about it. I really knew nothing about it. And so I hurried up, got on my computer in my classroom and did my research. And of course, I found it, and then my name kind of popped up here or there.
Yeah.
So then I went
Stephen
home.
Colbert.
Yeah. And so I went home that night, and my wife and I, it was like, what was it, $5 then?
She didn't know either?
No, she knew
did
nothing.
The kids didn't know?
Nobody knew.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, that's incredible.
So we started watching it that night, and I really didn't. We watched the first episode. It's kind of stupid, and then I really
it was.
And then you started. You get connected to the characters, so it was very well cast.
Oh yeah.
And then you started really listening, and we fell in love with it. And then as we're watching it one night, I don't remember what it was. Janice points up to the TV and says, "Yeah, Donnie, that's you." Well, to be honest with you, I didn't see it.
Yeah, right.
But I did see many of the lessons that I taught Jason's teammates.
The quotes.
There you go.
Right.
30 years earlier being applied in a show about a football soccer coach.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
He wasn't even a basketball coach. He's a soccer coach.
Right.
Applying the same principles that you did way
Exactly.
back. And when he's sitting there doing that in 19 or 18, whenever it was, and he was, going, listening to you to try to pick up some of those, to try to remember, I'm sure, right?
It's, to me, it's, when I watched this, I think it was one of the last episodes, he was talking about Tex Winter's triangle offense.
Yes.
And I never ran Tex Winter.
He was in a restaurant.
Exactly.
Drinking or something.
But he was talking about giving his players freedom, which is what we did with motion offense that we taught. So I think there was that connection there a little bit too. I mean, a lot of people don't know that, but I feel like I gave my players freedom to play. Of course, they all had roles too, but there's just a lot of little nuances in there. The Kansas City connection, with the hats he wears and his shirts and
everything he did was about KC.
But he's got those Midwestern values as well, which you see too. So
where did Believe come from? Is that from you as well?
No, it is not. It's not from me.
I would have claimed that if I was you.
No.
I would have said, gosh, that came from Donnie Campbell.
No.
Man. Who are you trying to kid?
No. I would put up different inspirational signs in our locker rooms, but Belief was not one of them. I love it, though.
Yeah.
I think, I think you have to speak greatness into people. They have to know that you believe in them if you want to get the most out of them. And I think everything, as you well know, starts with trust.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I've always told our players, I'm not going to tell you always what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And when players know that they can trust you, then and you're constantly, I honestly say, and I get on a player in a practice, I always made sure when the practice was over that I went over and said, I'm trying to get you better. I really believe you can do better.
I'm not talking about you. I don't care about you.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
And I believed in my players. And I think one of the things that I think is so important is players don't particularly always, when you're coaching them. Well, I had a quarterback coach, Tommy McVeigh at Kansas State. He was at Texas Tech, and he coached Patrick Mahomes. So Tommy was a great guy. If you've ever met Tommy, gregarious guy, one of the positive. And we always had pre-snaps, always to start practice. And he said to me one day, he says, Donnie, I heard you're a math major, wanting to be a teacher and a coach. And I said, yeah. He goes, you idiot. He goes, you're smart. You can do something to make a lot of money. And I said, no, I want to make a difference.
Your parents told you that too.
Yeah. And I said to him, he goes, okay, you want to coach, do you want to be liked or do you want to be respected? So I'm 19, 20 years old. The mind's thinking, and I think I said I want to be liked. He said, you can't have both. He says, if you earn their respect, then you'll earn their love. So that's what I always focused on.
Yeah.
Was I didn't really care if they liked me. I want them to respect me first, and then eventually they'll know that Coach really wants me to be my very best.
You always remember the toughest coaches. I mean,
Yeah.
And you always remember the mistakes. You never remember the game-winning basket. You remember the one I missed or I clanked or threw the interception or whatever happened.
You betcha.
I don't know if you're watching. I don't know how much of the Little League World Series you watched, but there was a thing on YouTube, and the coach, I think their team was down. It was Connecticut. I think they were down to one of the South Region teams. They were down 8-2. It was their last at bat, and he gathered them all together. He said, "Guys, believe."
Wow.
And they all just repeated, "Believe, believe, believe." They came back and they won the game 9-8.
Oh, wow.
It was really incredible. It was a really inspiring type deal. It was really cool. But the belief thing came directly from Ted Lasso. So it was just one of those things where that show then has spawned all this other stuff. So you get on Good Morning America, you're everywhere, okay? Right after Jason Sudeikis says, hey, he's the guy, and that was my old high school coach, and that's who a lot of this stuff comes from. Your life changed a lot at that point too, right? And I know you decided that I do have a message, right?
Right.
And tell me the story about transitioning over to becoming a motivational speaker with these lessons that you have developed all through your life.
Well, first, I really I had a couple organizations call me and want me to speak, and
this is just off the Ted Lasso thing,
off the
right?
Ted Lasso thing, and I went out and spoke to small groups, and then they liked me, and I kind of liked it. I felt like I was coaching. It wasn't anything different. So my girls, my daughters, and my wife, Dad, you'd be great. You'd be great. I said, nah, I really don't. I don't want to do this. And then I started liking it.
That sounds familiar.
So I kind of like this. So I called. I got a number of a speaking manager, Kelly Borsath, and
we know Kelly.
I called her and left her a voicemail and about who I was, and she probably didn't know who I was, but she did, and she called me back, and I said, hey, I don't know if you know who I am, and I'm Donnie Campbell. Jason Sudeikis has mentioned me as being partly the impetus behind the show, and I have an interest in speaking. Would you have an interest in me? She goes, well, yeah. And I said, I don't want to waste your time, and I'm sure you don't want to waste, my time. So she set me up a speaking gig, and I did my first speaking gig, and it was the Leewood Boys Charity Group. And I got in front of, I don't know, there was quite a few parents and kids there. There was probably 500-600 people there. I got up, and I was so nervous, and she helped me. She helped me with my slides, and I got done. After I got done, of course, I was soaked,
Oh, yeah.
So a gal came up to me. She was in tears. She was a teacher. She goes, you inspired me. You motivated me. And Kelly said, yeah, we're gonna go forward.
I think it's going to work.
I think it's going to work. So she got me a keynote writer, and I did a bunch of Zoom calls with him, and he helped me write my keynote. He's phenomenal, and then helped me with my speaking. And last year, I think I did 26. And I love it. I absolutely love it. It's sharpened my saw. I mean, it's revigorated me.
Yeah, you bet it has.
And then I think I've got close to 50 this year, and it's still growing. So I think it's hard for me to understand that anybody would want to hear me.
I understand. I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm doing this. I told my wife, I said, they won't listen to me anymore.
You know what I'm talking
Absolutely.
about. It's kind of an imposter syndrome,
yes,
right?
It is.
But I have so many people come up to me and say that I inspired them, that they love what I have to say, they love my message, and I just it makes you feel so good that you connected with people, that you motivated, that you inspired people, and that's what I'm doing now, and I do it in the classroom still too. I always tell our kids, the other day I had a kid say, Coach Campbell, you're old school, and I said, no, I'm right school. We're always going to do things the right way. I said, you can never be. So I'm always throwing those little things out there. You can never be wrong by doing right.
That's exactly right.
And I put a quote up there a couple days ago. I love E plus R equals O, and I said, what's that? Yeah, and I said, well, it's, you have an event, and then it's a response, and then the outcome. And I said, we're all going to make mistakes. Doers make mistakes, right? But it's what you do after a mistake that really matters. And I said,
it's how you respond.
Exactly. And I said, that's what I love about math, kids. You're going to make mistakes. That's part of it. But you're going to grow and get better. And I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
Because I've made every one of them.
I could have used you in calculus class, by the way, back in Villanova. And I know on a keynote, you have to know the audience. Mm-hmm. Okay, you have to know who you're speaking. So your keynote adjusts because of the audience.
Right.
But you basically have a grounding there, and you call it MVP. Mm-hmm. Explain MVP, which goes right to the sports analogies as well.
Well, I got that really from a minister here in town, to be honest with you. And his is MVT. Mine's MVP. And I like the idea of it. And so we threw that into my keynote. And it's your mission, what your why is, of course. And then you need to have values. And you need to have a plan. And that's what I talk about. My mission was to create better people who would then be better people would be better basketball players, and then your values are trust, accountability, and commitment. And then I just have stories of players talking about different ways that we've developed trust, and different ways that we held each other accountable, and different ways that we talk about commitment. And then we end with just different examples of things I've had that I've learned from, and I've learned a lot more from my players than they ever learned from me, and that's what I talk about. And leadership is very, very simple, to be honest with you. Your example is not the main thing; it's the only thing.
Yeah.
It's how you you got to walk the walk. You talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk every day. And the best people I'm sure that have mentored you and led you were just they were who they were, right?
Exactly.
And you trust people like that.
Right.
It's hard to trust somebody who doesn't have quality character.
Right. And it's who you surround yourself with as well.
You betcha. And get the right people on the bus, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah. You want people in the room who are smarter than you are. That's
you
for
betcha.
Sure. And I think you always say you learn more from losing than you do from winning.
Right.
Or from not losing or being a loser, but losing a situation maybe in life. You lost a job or whatever, but you learn more from that than you do from the successes, right?
I think, too, is this. I think that, the two hardest things to handle for a human being or a person is losing and success. I think losing will go to your head. Winning sometimes can go to your heart. Mm-hmm. And I think that both of them, I didn't do a good job at times coaching. When we had success, you start to think you're better than what you are instead of really trying to work and grow better. That's what amazes me about some of these guys. Like, I know, like Belichick struggling right now, but to have that success,
you think?
the success that these people have that consistently, those are the people I really watched and studied were the ones that were consistently successful.
Yeah.
Because they have the secret sauce. Yeah. Because that's hard to do, to succeed. Like, look at the Chiefs.
Sure.
To have the consistency they have.
And look how long they went without having it.
You betcha.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is an amazing job by that organization, I think.
Yeah, just incredible. Okay, let's talk about how different are kids today than they were, even back in Jason's
right. I think what has happened. I really blame us as parents. I think that we've taken we've shown the kids the path, but we've taken the rocks out of the path. Yeah. So many of the kids now that I work with and I teach, they're not as resilient. They're not able to handle adversity. Right. And I think that
they're too pampered.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And again, I bet you our parents said the same thing about us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I think it's generational. But I don't think kids have changed. I think the parents have changed the kids more so.
That's interesting.
And I think that kids will do whatever your bar is set at. That has never changed.
Right.
And you hold them accountable every day as long as they know that you really care about them.
Yeah, you love them. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's never changed.
Yeah. And as far as, I think you worry about youth sports a little bit. A lot of kids will be driven out before they're teenagers or shortly after teenagers, like just transitioning from either 8th grade in the old days like me or junior high. As they get into high school, they have trepidation about taking that next step, don't they?
Yeah, and I think that the mistake that we as parents make, or some parents make, is I think that the percentage of kids getting out by the age of 13, and don't quote me on this, is something like 80%.
Wow.
And they ask why. Well, number one is parents. And
coaches tell you the same thing.
Yeah, and number two,
parents drive me crazy.
Yeah,
drive them
exactly.
Crazy, yeah.
And then number two is coaches who really don't know how to teach the game, that don't know how to teach the fundamentals. And that breaks my heart, because there's so many lessons, as you well know. Many of the lessons we both learned.
Oh, absolutely.
You playing football, at Villanova, me and playing sports as well. So many great lessons learned there, and I think that's taken away so many opportunities for kids to grow and develop. And I think too, multi-sport athletes, I really believe, I love coaching them because I just think they have that competitive edge. I don't know if the basketball, you can win at the high school level with all multi-sport athletes. I think you have to have some kids that are just true basketball players. But I love a hard-nosed football player that wants to play basketball, that wants to get out and guard and rebound. Right. I love those kind of kids, and because they're going to compete. I remember I talked to a friend of mine who was on staff with Bob Stoops at Oklahoma, and when he was out recruiting, if he had 2 athletes that were the same ability, he was recruiting, and one was a multi-sport athlete and one wasn't, he always went with the multi-sport athlete. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, especially a wrestler.
You betcha.
They love the wrestlers.
Oh, you betcha. And wrestling, there's no excuses there. It's just
God,
you and
no,
another
it's you
person.
against that guy, yeah.
And you got to be a tough hombre to wrestle.
So with that in mind, NIL and the portal, we might have, I know you love K-State and stuff, but if there was a portal back then, you might, because you were stuck behind, Delray Dickey and Stan Weber, you might have decided, you know what, I'm going to go transfer to somebody else. KU was interested, Missouri was. I'm going to call them up and go. What do you think about NIL and the portal? They're 2 separate things, basically. One's money, and the other one's just.
I think kids should get paid. I just don't think kids should be able to transfer like 4 or 5 times.
I think that's going to change too. So
I think that the problem I have with the money is what about the players who are not making the same amount? I understand a quarterback's probably going to make more than the punter or whatever. Right. I don't know, but I'm not a big believer in money. I think money corrupts things. That's my opinion. I think transactional never works. Transformative always works, and I don't have any answers for it. I know I couldn't coach in that environment in which everything was give to that person and not get anything back in return.
Exactly.
I think that's a very, very difficult situation. I don't know how I think the coaches are navigating it now. They're still trying to figure it out. I watched Kansas State play Army the other night, which was hard to watch.
Yeah, it was.
And I think that as I watch K-State, I love Kansas State football because that's where I play, and I love the coach there, but as I watch our team, I just don't think they're as tough and disciplined as when Coach Snyder had them. I'm not blaming the coaches there. I'm just
kids.
The kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And Army, they're there for.
They're there. They're disciplined. They're going to war.
Exactly.
Eventually. Okay, this is the best time of their lives.
And I felt like K-State had, of course, better players, but I felt like Saturday, that difference was the discipline, the toughness of Army was the difference. And I think that's what I always thought that we had at K-State. And I don't know if that'll ever come back. And I'm not blaming the coaches for it. It's just the environment they're in now.
The way they're in,
And I don't know how that ever changes. I just I think that the horse is out of the barn now, and money, as you well know, corrupts. And I don't know what the answer to it is. If I was smart enough to figure that out, I'd be doing it, but I'm not.
Yeah, to be in that locker room and like you said, you got a quarterback making $3 million, and we'll say a wide receiver, running back, or even a defensive tackle is making This is crazy because you and I are talking, making 100,000. We'd have died to have $100,000.
Oh, yeah.
My gosh, we couldn't even go out on weekends unless you'd worked all summer.
Exactly.
To put some money in your pocket to be able to take somebody out on a date in college. It's crazy.
Well, too, is kids smart enough at 18 years old to handle
it? No way.
I know I couldn't have.
Way.
I mean, I had enough trouble having $20 in my pocket. It was gone by the end of the night.
Yeah, and we'll find that out eventually. We'll find out where all this money went and how they did. Coach, I'm gonna be late for practice. I have to do a car commercial.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be tied up a little bit. I've got to earn my NIL type deal.
Right.
I don't know if that would ever go. Well, Donnie, this has been absolutely incredible. One phrase that if your players all came back and they thought about you, a phrase that they'd go, oh yeah, Coach Campbell used to always say this.
You don't have to win a championship to be a champion. They would say that. You bet.
It's a great way to end it.
Thank you.
You're a good man, Donnie Campbell.
Thank you.
Continued success, continued, being blessed with your family and the whole thing. You've been inspiration to everybody in this town, that these kids who have all come in contact with you, and of course, Jason Sudeikis making you a international celebrity, as a matter of fact. But,
thanks.
Continued success with your career.
Thank you.
Man.
Thanks for having me.
Donnie Campbell, another reason why there's just something about Kansas City.
There's Just Something About Kansas City is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization with the mission of documenting the stories that have built our city to inspire and educate generations to come. Our work is being made possible by the generous support of local partners like you. You can help us share these stories by becoming a sponsor today. Visit somethingaboutKC.org to learn more.